Hey, I know, like, you know where I'm at, like, hey, Jeff, no, I got you, brody. Look, hey, let's go, hey. Real life, real talk, never fall, we ain't doing that. Want me fall off, but I can't, I'm just too attached. I was so lost, I ain't going back. Never fall, never fall. We on the road, yeah, we on the road. Every day like the Olympics gon' go. Yeah. I'm in control, I thought you should know. Real life, real talk, never fall.
What's up, guys? Today I've got a very special guest. It's a friend of mine who's helped me a lot over the years. His name is David NIETHE. He's a mental skills and performance coach. He's worked with a lot of people. I'm going to name a few just so you can kind of get an idea of kind of level that he works at. Israel Adesanya, Kai Kara France, The Breakers, Lydia Ko, blah, 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 blah. He's worked with a lot of people, but not just people at a high level, people across the board. So what I like about today is everyone's going to be able to get something out of this, regardless of what you do, who you are. It's very much about mindset, about overcoming things, about just being stronger up here. And as you know, from, you'll know me by now, I'm very much about that. And what's cool about today is I've known Dave for, how long have I known you for, Dave?
Geez, mate.
At least over 10 years.
Over 10 years, yeah, easily.
And when it comes to like the earlier days in building my business, he helped me a lot, just with things like just little things like believing in myself, backing myself. A lot of the high performance professional athletes I worked with over the years, another not bodybuilding, but in other sports, was referrals from Dave. So we have that relationship in terms of business. And we've known each other a long time. So it's going to be a very good episode. I'm actually excited about it because I've got a bunch of stuff I want to talk about, and I'm actually some things we haven't spoken about. So I'm interested to hear what he says, and I know you will be too. So welcome, Dave. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, it's a pleasure, mate. Good to see you, man.
Oh, it's great. It's always good. It's always good. So we'll get straight into it. A lot of what I'm going to talk about is things that I deal with clients. Things that I think people struggle with, things that I think people can benefit from learning how to kind of understand why that's happening or understand how to combat it, or you know what I mean? So yeah, something that I think everyone struggles with, everyone, regardless of who they are, what they do, to a degree, is self-doubt. Yeah, I think a lot of people at times, regardless of how good or not so good someone is at something, they will have times where they will doubt themselves, whether they're good enough, whether they think they can do something. And I want to kind of get your idea, your understanding of what to do in these situations, or why these things happen, and how to combat it.
Well, I think well, there's two ways to approach that. It's in the immediate and how do you support them through it at that perspective. But I'm really more interested in a deeper structural level where we sort of minimize that. And one of the most important things is let's understanding the psychological engineering here. So we have something like 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, right? Now, of those thoughts, they either contribute or contaminate. And I mean, not saying that most of the thought can be having a cup of tea is not really defined by whether it's contributing or contaminating, but I'm talking on the contents of a stress response, right? So we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Now, one of the most important things that you have to establish is a strong self-image. So I'll set the picture now. Imagine a crystal bowl filled with crystal clear water. And in that bowl, you can see through it, and you can see your vision, your goals, your aspirations, right? Now, every time that you have a negative thought or negative self-talk, it's like a little bit of dye that drips in there, and it's insignificant initially, but over a period of time it starts to it starts to desensitize and dirty the water, so you lose sight, right? So one of the most important things is, as a conscious being, and that's the blessing that we have as human beings, is that we're consciously aware of the fact that we're conscious. The most important thing is to protect yourself at all times. So it's understanding and recognizing the self-talk and knowing that in that moment that you start having that negative thought, you start to contaminate the self-image and become vulnerable. So one of the most important things, interesting, it comes from boxing. And that's the last thing the referee says to two guys that come out banging, or two girls coming out banging. And that is, protect yourself at all times. So what I talked about with my clients is, mind your language, So when you build a strong self-image, what it does is that it allows you to navigate your way through life more effectively through that self-awareness to minimize this negative stress response. Now, it's inevitable you're going to have challenges in life, and you will go through those things. But if you can look at protecting yourself and understand that, mistakes are going to be made, problems are going to be presented, but you're not defined by those problems or that moment. It's your steps that you take that really creates your future, that defines you. So yeah, stage one, protect yourself at all times. Be consciously aware of your representation.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what I notice is when people can't do that, it often leads to self-sabotage. And my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is I think people self-sabotage, one, to get themselves out of hard situations. For example, they're in a comp prep, they're 4 weeks out, it's hard, they're tired, they're hungry, they don't want to do it anymore. So they just go and do something stupid so they can be like, oh, well, it's done. Or they have hype, like they've got expectation. And I've spoken about this on previous episodes, people creating hype, creating expectations on themselves based on how they're approaching the process, how they're posting, whatever, which is cool, which is fine, because for a lot of people that is a positive and people thrive off that, but some people don't, and they get they create these expectations from others, and then they kind of freak out at the end, like, oh my god, and then they just go and do something stupid, and it's almost so that, I believe it's so they can control the outcome. So I just gave up, I couldn't be bothered, so I just did this and this, rather than just do everything they could, and then and then they lose, and then it's like, I don't know how to deal with that. That's how I always looked at it.
Well, it's basically, I'm trying to give, I want to give information that your clients can take away and sort of apply it and making it as simple and easy as possible. So one of the things that I talk about is the 99-1% rule, right? So 99% of people will blame, excuse, or denial. They'll make excuses. They're in denial, or they'll blame someone else, right? And that's where most people by default go, right? Now, for me, what I want to encourage is ownership, accountability, and responsibility. Now, I think there's a couple of key things here that's kind of important too on your journey, and then we'll put this in the context of bodybuilding. I think it's kind of important to, yes, you have a vision, but I think it's about really sitting down and really anticipating what are some of the potential potholes and being really realistic. I mean, I would suggest to you, like, for instance, if you're doing your first ever bodybuilding competition, you know what the goal should be? I think that the goal should be to simply show up with the best of intention of showing the best version of you. Because what it does is that it's a tick, right? I've shown up. Now, there's I'll guarantee you, most of your first 3 or 4 competitions is probably where you probably learn a lot about fine-tuning your nutrition, how your body responds, etc., etc. And so it's been realistic. But as you start getting more and more into the elite levels of bodybuilding, that's when you've got to be able to really become consciously aware and hold yourself to a high level of accountability. Do you know what I mean? Because the expectations are going to increase, and there's a huge sense of responsibility. That's why it's understandable that you're putting yourself in a stressful situation, but in that moment, ideally in a philosophical sense, is sort of embracing the challenge of that, because you become a better version of yourself when you can really be honest with yourself. And even with some of your clients, you probably prefer someone saying to you, hey, Geordie, I'm struggling mentally here, and have a conversation, than have them say nothing to you, go and eat a flipping donut, have a little bit of relief, and then fuck up the whole thing, eh?
Yeah, that conversation can, that as a perfect analogy, because I had a client compete yesterday. She was probably the most conditioned athlete in the show.
Yeah.
I think it was like 19 days out. She just messaged me. She basically just told me she didn't cheat or anything. She just told me she's really struggling. Told me where she's at, and I kind of just took it on board, and you know, we got there in the end, and she looked amazing. She's so happy now. Whereas I've had other clients who have not been responding to the plan, have been cheating. They tell you they're not when you ask them, but then you see other people tell you that, you know, they told me they're doing this. So you know that there's lies, and that's what you said before, like ownership, and that does your head in, because it's like, you're lying to me now, and I'm not stupid. You know, I've prepped so many people. I know when something's not happening, why it's not happening. You know what I mean? So
and I think also that's probably the important thing, is sitting down and seeing where someone's at. And you've got that experience where you can say, hey, listen, you've got to anticipate some of the challenges, because you've got to appreciate, I think, for a lot of people that are going and undertaking bodybuilding, for instance, is they possibly don't have a frame of reference. And so it's navigating through things that they didn't really anticipate. But I would say, you know, again, from a more of a basic level, a philosophical level, is, you know, it's about embracing those challenges and really looking at, here's an opportunity for me to overcome something. You know, and I think that's what life's all about to a certain point. It's a promise to self to become the best version of oneself. You know, and I think life's going to throw challenges at you. Now, I think that's the blessing, because as you start establishing strategies to deal with the stress of it, and part of it is, as you do more shows, for instance, you know what to expect, and you're better prepared. That's a progression. So it's a progression not just in conditioning, it's a progression in mindset. Over a period of time, you get someone like, you know, a top-level Olympia. They're well-conditioned to all those challenges that they endure on that journey to being best prepared for the Olympia.
Yeah, I always tell people, like, the most valuable thing you'll get out of doing a show, but over anything, is the mental fortitude you'll gain from it, if you do it properly, and if you embrace the challenges, embrace the struggle. But it's interesting, because you there's so many different personality types. So there's people that will go through some traumatic shit during a prep, and they'll still do, like, and I have mixed feelings, because, you know, bodybuilding is not everything. There's, you know, there's a lot more important things in people's lives, but it's still there, and it's still a goal. So people will, something will happen, and, you know, they'll push through that last 4 weeks despite their world turning upside down. And then you'll get another person who'll stub their toe and throw their toys out the window. And that might come back to just, you know, passion and you know, competitiveness and whatnot. But at the same time, a lot of it is mental fortitude. And what I love about it is it does carry over to other areas. So
I would say that you're absolutely right, Geordie, because, you know, it's a universal in its application. You know, look, here's a simple principle: pain means new life. And if you can work through the pain, you then create a better version of yourself. And I think it's okay to stumble. What's not okay is to settle for a life that is less than the one you deserve. Now, any person who's decided to undertake a bodybuilding competition, like I said, the first, it set realistic goals on that journey. But I would say that you've made a promise to yourself. You better commit right through to being on that stage.
What would you say to someone who isn't committing? So someone who's putting in 80%?
I-
Like, what
well,
would you honestly, truthfully say?
For me personally, you know, and you can appreciate whether it's preparing for a competition or even for me when I have clients, I'm not here to convince them, right? It's almost like someone wanting to work with me. They'll come and they'll say, well, why should I? Well, I'm not here to convince you. If you don't want to, don't fucking show up. It's as simple as that. Now, I would say that to a certain point, there's a lot of people that have great intentions, and intentions mean nothing. Attention aligned with attention affects the bottom line, right? And the bottom line is my behavior today congruent with that vision? That's the accountability factor. So if you're constantly asking yourself, is my behavior today congruent with that of my vision, which is to go on stage and ideally win and present the best possible physique, that self-accountability, when you learn to overcome that and hold yourself responsible to that the ripple effect that it has on your life is massive. You know, when you think of it, a bodybuilding show in of itself to a certain point is a promise to present a consistent process of becoming the best version of ourselves. Now, think about this. Again, a lot of my stuff is philosophical, right? I'm an existentialist, mate. I truly believe we're on this planet and we've been given the gift of life. And with that, we have a responsibility to be the best we can be and all we can be. Now, one of the keys to that continuation of that is to recognize what are my shortfalls? What am I failing in? What are the areas of limiting belief? And like Carl Jung said, where fear lies, that's where you need to focus. So if you're sitting down and, you know, you're 4 weeks out and you're starting to doubt, that's the gift. That's an opportunity for you to overcome something. And it's not just how it's represented as I could be sitting in front of a donut right now and I want that donut so bad, but I've got to overcome this. And that psychological challenge in that moment is significant, because when it's applied over and over daily for years on end, what sort of person do you become? That is the mastery of life, mate.
Yeah, though that discipline across the board just adds up
Yes.
and adds up and adds up and adds
Yes.
up. Yes,
And it's about developing habitual behaviors. You know, it's discipline. You know, it's ultimately, you know, defining it as doing something that you don't want to do, but you know you have to do.
What so you work with, like, you know, Israel Adesanya, Kai Kara-France, you know, people. I'm talking that level of individual.
Yeah.
What like characteristics do they all have in common in terms of
they
mindset?
have a clear vision, mate. They have an absolute, undeniable, specific goal, right? So, you know, here's something that I would really recommend your clients do. Now, I'm gonna throw this in with a couple of metaphors and stories, okay?
Yeah.
So, when I met Israel, and we only worked together for a very short period of time, 2016, we only had a couple of sessions, but it was enough for him to build momentum, and off he went, right? Very switched on guy. But he had lost a lot of the self-belief. Anyway, one of the key things that I talked about is, firstly, clarify your vision and get sensory specific with it. So all my clients, I charge them to get a vision board. Be clear on what you want, right? So Israel went away and he got one of his mates to superimpose the UFC middleweight champion of the world belt around his belly. Now, you got to appreciate, he didn't even have a contract for the UFC at this point, but that was the vision. Now, here's the cool thing, because Israel, everything he does with absolute conviction, right? Everything is done with absolute conviction. The way he eats, the way he trains, how he turns up, everything. So Mike Angrove, because Izzy was staying with Mike. Mike Angro is probably one of the top trainers in the country. He comes home and he thinks Izzy's asleep because he's having a rest between the training sessions. And he tiptoes past and there's Izzy on the end of his bed looking up at that picture that he had saying, I'm the UFC champion of the world, just quietly saying it to himself. And Mike went, wow, that's pretty cool. Well, what was it? 3, 4, 5 years later, that was reality. So I think it's really important. Now, again, that probably lies into delayed gratification, eh? That's the importance of having your goals on a timeline and a deadline. You know, so even something as simple as goal setting is absolutely vital. It starts with a clear vision. And here's what I recommend. I want you to give yourself permission to be outrageous with that vision, right? Because the subconscious mind will do just enough, right? So when you understand that, you can overcome that. So, you know, aim high. Be realistic with the process, though.
I reckon you actually surprise yourself. You know, when you set a goal and you think, oh, it's a big goal. It's a big goal.
Yep.
The amount of like momentum you get when you hit that goal, you can generally get way further. And I've done that a lot of times. Where, I mean, like we've all set goals that haven't come off for whatever reason, and it's normal. But a lot of us, you know, you should have set goals that have. And a lot of the time when I like to set goals start of the year, it's just just like everyone else. And I write them down and blah blah blah. And a lot of the time, you hit that goal by April, and you're like, oh shit, let's change it, and then you got to change it again. Obviously, sometimes it doesn't work out, but I'm all for that. Go hard, aim high. If you aim for 1,000, you only get 800. That's better than aiming for 500, getting 500. So
absolutely, and there is a science in the sense of, you know, the brain's predictive. You know, that's reflected in our biology, mate. You know, the interesting thing about the human skull is that our eyes are in the front. We are focused animals. We are alpha animals. We don't have the eyes on the side of our head because we're worrying about being eaten. Do you know what I mean? So we even our biology reflects the fact that we are focused, right? And I think that that is the feeling of satisfaction, which again, you get the reward of the dopamine dump, which reinforces the behavior, which, as you said, you start building momentum through creating habitual behaviors that are congruent with the overcoming and the outcome of the vision.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful way to live life. It's like having a little fucking secret. Do you know what I mean? It's like, fuck, I know something about me.
I know the future.
You get excited.
Yeah. I know what you don't know.
You know, and I think there's something that I think the most powerful thing you can do is sit there and go, you know what, you know, even doing a little bit of reflection and being honest with yourself, and then going, you know, what are those things that I truly want to overcome? That's life's journey, man.
Yeah. I was going to bring up. I was going to say, for some people, it's to get on stage. For other people, it's to win the Olympia. It's all realistic.
I mean, and for other people, it's got nothing to do with that.
Yes.
But there's always a goal for, you know.
Yes.
And that's cool because the next part's about a goal. And this doesn't need about bodybuilding, but part of it will be just because of what I want to ask you. But I want to talk about setting goals. As you said before, goals, you know, it can be outrageous, but it's still going to be realistic to you. So, you know, being realistically outrageous, I feel, is probably a good term.
Well, I think it's got to start with a vision, and ideally, it's got to be a little unrealistic, right? Okay, so let's go through the formula. So, you know, a lot of your audience probably heard of SMART test, but I want to go a little bit deeper into the structure of that. So first one is specific, right? And the reason why it's important that you're specific with your goals is because the subconscious mind will do just enough, because there's a lot going on in life, right? So the brain is dealing with millions of bytes of information. basically what it's doing, and it will make decisions based on what's most important. So when it becomes a priority, then it becomes predictive in relation to that priority, okay? So that's why it needs to be specific. The other thing is then it's reflected in language. A lot of people go like, I'd just be happy to, it's a bit like money, right? So you can go, I wish I had more money. It's a very ambiguous statement. You go down to the local dairy with some cash, pick up milk and biscuits or whatever, not biscuits if you're on Jordan's diet, but and you got some money left over, you buy a scratchy and you win $2. Now the subconscious mind done its job, but are you happy with $2? So you've got to be really specific, and you'll find that in the representation, because you're constantly reinforcing that goal in your representation of your language, right? The next is it's got to be sensory specific. So go back to what I discussed with Israel, is that he had that vision board. Lydia Ko had one similar of the Solgen Cup, right? The US Women's Open. It was a cover of Golf Digest magazine. And Lydia did this when she was 10. She had cut Annika Sorensen's head off and plonked her head on top of it. It doesn't get much more sensory specific than that. I mean, and 6 years later, the youngest winner of an Open, Lydia Ko, made that a reality.
Crazy.
So that's the power of specificity. Then M is, what are the measurables? And it's a step-by-step divide and conquer process. If you want to be Mr. Olympia, then the first thing, obviously, is to get on stage and do a competition. Learn from that. Remember, life's all about learning. So I'll guarantee you, the part of the reason why you were successful is you probably fucked up a lot, but you learned from it, right? You learn how to refine. You learn about your body. So there's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. And it's having that fortitude of mind to honestly look at the feedback, but dump all the emotional bullshit associated, right? Then we got A for accountability. Accountability will set you free because you will no longer procrastinate, right? We put things off. Fuck that. I want habitual structures, habitual behaviors. The R is realistic with the process, unrealistic with the vision. And again, the realistic process is guided by setting realistic goals on the journey to becoming the best version of you. And what do we got? T. T stands for timeline, deadline. Now, a lot of people say it's got to be timely. Mate, you've got to have deadlines. Yeah. You've got a comp coming up. That's your deadline.
Yeah, and people can't focus. Most people can't put in the amount of work needed without that pressure of the deadline.
And again, you think of someone like Lydia Ko, you think of someone like an Israel. The one thing that I would say is the biggest contributing factor, not from a visual perspective, but purely on the fact that they have built habitual structures and habits of discipline. Even when you don't want to go, they go. For Lydia, for instance, the little story, Lydia I think was outstanding. And one of the things she used to do is she constantly asked one little question. And that was, can I just hit one more? Now, everyone else had left the range. Everyone else had gone home. Everyone else was getting ready for bed. But there's Lydia. So here's another little gem for your listeners. What's done in the dark will shine in the light. And so those little moments, the little 1%ers are having the attitude to commit to preparing your meals. Don't make fucking excuses, and again, make little agreements and keep them. For your clients that want to work with you, Geordie, they've made a commitment to a competition. The moment that they make a promise to you that they're going to commit to that, then there's a contract in the sense that you have the right. And again, this is what I do with my clients. I will ask one little question, and that is, do you give me permission to be blunt and honest? Because I will always be honest with my clients, as much as they may not like it. But because I truly care, I want to challenge some of the limiting beliefs, the bullshit stories, the excuses. And when you overcome that, well, mate, your whole world changes, eh?
Yeah, for sure. Just quickly on the goals. So if we bring that back to bodybuilding, I think it's important to say, because it's all well and good, you know, in the case of someone like Lydia in golf or Israel Adesanya in the UFC, like they make a lot of money doing that. But in bodybuilding, most people aren't going to make money or much of it from actually competing. They may make it indirectly, like doing what I'm doing or doing other things, getting sponsors, whatnot. But actually just from competing, you're going to have to be really, really good. And for a lot of people, it's just not genetically possible. So what I want to say is you need to have these goals and you need to do the things to achieve these goals. But you also need to take care of your life outside of these goals. So because if you don't handle your work, how are you going to afford to do your bodybuilding? You can't. It's not cheap. So you've still got to work. You've still got to, you know, family, whatever. Like everyone's got different scenarios. Some people
and there's no guarantees.
But and just because someone has it easier doesn't mean you should be like, oh, it's not fair. Fuck that. We've all got our own shit. Deal with it.
You know, regardless if it's bodybuilding or UFC, whatever, I would say to you, I would counter with the fact that, you know, Israel used to sleep under the steps. They would barely rub enough money together to get fucking cheap $2 noodles. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, I think we've got to be mindful of, firstly, be fucking real, man. If you want to be a bodybuilder and you truly want to be a professional, that means that you need to have trusted people that are upfront and fucking honest with you, but also being realistic, because believe me, I'm sure you get these deluded fuckwits that look in the mirror and think, fuck me, I've got a physique of an Adonis. And the reality is the cunt needs to do some calf training.
Okay. I mean, it can go either way. You get people who will see things that you just like, I don't know what you're saying, but then you get other people who look amazing and they don't see that and they're like, oh, I look like shit. Like, what are you crazy? So you get both ends of the spectrum, but it's definitely a thing.
I think it's about sort of being real. But again, that's not to say that you can't go to national level. Do you know what I mean? I mean, look, there's only a few that truly make it. I mean, you think about how many kids today want to be UFC champs. There's millions of them in dojos and gyms around the world. It's the 99.1% rule. And all I could say is, by applying all these things, all we can guarantee is the improvement of possibility and probability. There are no guarantees in life.
And you never know till you try. So don't fucking sell yourself short, because you probably get a lot further than what you think or what other people think if you
absolutely. And I think that it's almost like, get excited about the fact that you're challenging yourself to become a better version of yourself. I think now that could be applied in whether it's some study, whether it's a bodybuilding competition, or even other little things. It may be something like, I have a fear of public speaking. I'm going to overcome that. You know, that's something to be really proud of.
For sure, 100%. I got one more topic. This is going to be a good one. I've left it last on purpose because I get a lot of people that struggle with this, and I find it quite interesting. So it's about stage fright. So basically, I want if you can, what you would recommend to combat stage fright. And I find it interesting because, so I never got stage fright. I got a little bit nervous maybe the first time, but it was nothing crazy. I never got nervous for competitions because in my mind, like, what's there to be nervous about? I've done everything I could do. There's nothing I can do today that's going to change the outcome. So like I've done the work. Whereas when I played sports at a high level, I would be so nervous on the get. If I'm playing for like a rep team or for like a men's team, I'd get, when I was like 17, I'd get real nervous. To the point a lot of the time where I couldn't perform properly. I would make stupid mistakes, like things out of my, that I shouldn't be, mistakes I would never normally make. And the difference was with sport, you can train all week. You can train perfectly all week. You can do all the extras you want, but there's no guarantee you're going to play well during the game, because if you know what I mean, like you can make a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes, but for bodybuilding, I found like I've done everything I can. Like I know how I look. I know what I've done. There's nothing to do today. So it was like the work can be done. But I know people that are the other way around. So
I would say you probably solved your own situation, because if you went back and listened to think about this. Think about what you said about your bodybuilding. And if you were to apply that as that young kid, you'd probably go, oh, fuck yeah, you know, I've done all that I possibly can. Remember, have the best of intention, let go of the outcome. So here's what I would suggest. Okay, first things first, maybe let's look at the immediate situation. So, you know, we're talking about a stress response. Now, the brain's predictive and it doesn't really fully understand. Now, it doesn't know whether you're going on stage or a polar bear's about to rip the shit out of you, right? All it knows is that it needs to respond. So you get that huge adrenaline dump, you get the cortisone and all these different hormones going. Now, what I would suggest is a simple breathing exercise that helps minimize that hormone response and increase the dopamine, the serotonin, the stuff that sort of calms you down, right? So it's the simple process of breathing in for 4 through the nose, hold for 5, and out through your mouth slowly. And run that a couple of times. Now, you could even be on stage running that, and people probably won't even know. But I would say, there's probably stress triggers, and one of them will be on arrival. So you arrive in the car for the competition. That's probably the first response, because right in that moment is probably like, fuck, when I hop out of the car, I'm about to. So what I would suggest, remember, the important principle here is you cannot change anything you don't first recognize. So recognize that I'm getting nervous. Recognize I'm getting a lot of noise in here. Recognize that my breathing's getting shallow. So you could arrive in the car. Before you get out of the car, take a moment to pause and to breathe. Hop out of the car. Then the next thing will possibly be in the marshalling area, where you're all sitting down, starting to get your tans, whatever. And even then, you could be practicing your breathing just to calm it all down. Yeah. And that's not to say that the other important thing is that visualization, right? Remember, the subconscious mind has no idea of reality or time. So in the immediate, it's deploying your breathing to manage your neurology more effectively. But I would say also that the weeks moving up, visualize that moment walking out. And, you know, this is where you can have perceptual positioning, right? So you can see it through your own eyes, or you can watch yourself in the event. Now, even for a lot of your clients, see yourself in that marshalling area being so really calm and confident. You know, and as you visualize walking out, hear the crowd going, wow. Do you know what I mean? At least you're supporting yourself. Do you know what I mean? The other fundamental thing is exposure itself. Like I said, what Carl Jung said, where fear lies, that's where you need to focus. If you're getting stage fright, then book yourself in for another competition and another competition. And over a period of time, you condition yourself by exposing yourself to the things that you want to avoid to overcome. Remember, it's not just about winning medals. Sometimes overcoming the stage fright can then build the momentum that allows you to become the best possible bodybuilding version of yourself.
That's so crazy, because when I compete, when I do my cardio, probably for like 75% of the time I'm doing cardio, all that I'm thinking about is walking on stage.
Yeah.
I create my posing routines while I'm doing
Yes.
cardio. And I don't even practice them. I just do them over
Yeah.
and over and over in my head.
Yes.
Because I know once I have the music, because I know once I have the poses, it's easy for me to then go and replicate. I might practice my routine like 3 times before a show, but I've done it in my head
Absolutely.
so
Visual rehearsal.
I don't even realize I'm doing this, but I've been doing it for years.
It's visual rehearsal, mate. It's absolutely. And you get to a point, even myself, Geordie, I had a massive fear of stage fright. That was one thing for me on my journey that I wanted to overcome, because I realized that, part of my business is going to be talking to crowds. Well, initially, when I was thinking about this as a business, I would shit myself. I'm not that dude that gets up on stage. I had a track record of, just that wasn't for me. Well, here I am now, and I get paid stupid amounts of money to talk on stage, and I fucking love it. So yeah, it's about each individual going and being honest with yourself. All of you are probably sitting there right now and going, okay, I've got some competitions coming up. Well, let's really do an honest audit. What are the things that I tend to do, bitch about, moan about, avoid, that I'm consciously aware that sabotages my potential, and I want to attack it? You might be sitting there and thinking, fuck, I fuck up my diet every time. Right, I'm going to get in touch with Geordie, and I am going to make an absolute promise. My next comp, I am going to go and do exactly as Jordan is required of me, with absolute conviction. And regardless of the outcome, the fact that I've done that in of itself is something to be celebrated. That's the beautiful thing. It's overcoming those little things. Because what will happen is that if you, in that moment of temptation, overcome that, what sort of, it's like that little bit of snowball effect, and then suddenly it builds momentum, and then you have an avalanche. And I'll tell you what happens for a lot of people when you start to overcome that. You get to a point where you start to realize your potential. And what's even more exciting is that you have the structures of belief and behavior to really go on that journey to express the best possible version of yourself. That's a life lived, man.
And you're going to need it, because there's going to be a lot of trials and tribulations for everyone.
Absolutely, but you live for that. Yeah, if you're conditioned, you can navigate your way through it more effectively, because you have a strong conviction, an undoubtable belief in self, in overcoming that.
Yeah, for sure. And it just gets better and better. So
it does, man.
Yeah, that breathing thing you said before brought back memories. I remember 2018. I was like 2 days out from a show, and that was when Mum got diagnosed. And I text you, and I didn't say anything. I just said, hey, I need it. Like, I'm real stressed, and I'm competing on Saturday. Can you give me some advice? And you just called me, and you're just like, you didn't even say anything. I remember you were just like, breathe in for 5 seconds, hold it, blah blah blah. It was like 30 seconds, and then you're like, are you calm now? I'm like, yes. Okay, cool. And that was it. Cool. But it works. Honestly, it works. It works so well.
It works, man. I think let's really be clear on this. That's one thing about you, Geordie, is you are very attentive and very effective in taking direction. Now, believe me, I can share that breathing exercise, and people go, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, fuck, seriously, So I think it's a real credit to you. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if it's going to be, it's up to me, right? You took responsibility to truly commit to breathing to get the result. And I think you would probably agree with this. You give advice with nothing but loving intent to see them become the best versions of themselves. And if people are truly committed and listening to what you have to say, and committing to that, absolutely 100%, what the results can be are phenomenal for people.
Yeah, that's everything I do is based off that. I just want, you know, people say, oh, you're, you know, good reputation, or you're a hard coach. It's like, I'm not though. I just give you the information you need to be your best, because I want to see you improve physically, mentally, in every which way, so you can be your best version, so you can become what I know you can. Rather than just tell people a load of bullshit to keep them happy, to keep them paying you, to never really achieve anything. To me, that's not, I couldn't do that. I wouldn't want to do this if that was the case.
You've been brought up with good values, Geordie. I'm exactly the same, mate. Look, I've been doing this for over 30 years now. I've never advertised. All my business is referral. I truly believe in helping people to become the best versions of themselves. People talk, right? But in order for them to achieve that, like I said, I will start every conversation, every consult with one little question, and that is, do you give me permission to be blunt and honest? And if they say yes to that, then we can go on a journey. If they say no, they can leave. You know, and I think, you know, your track record now in bodybuilding, mate, congratulations. You've produced some outstanding athletes.
Thank you. Yeah, it all, the thing with that is, it's just like like you say, the ones who embrace it truly get to where they want to be. And you know, I often will have people who they will get, you know, they do get it's human nature, they get defensive, they get all upset, whatever, but then they come back tomorrow and they're like, okay, I see everything you've said and I agree with you and it was right, and from there they you know, they catapult. So
hey, listen, not everyone likes what I have to say as well, mate.
I'm one of those people sometimes.
Absolutely. Even you have your little moments of resistance, but I think we also have to appreciate that you know, people need some time to process that.
For sure.
I think it's all proportionate to the requirement of the outcome. I mean, if it's an immediate situation, then we haven't got time to process. We need to get a result relatively quickly. I'm sure you've had those little 4-week out emergencies, eh?
Oh yeah.
Too
many of them.
And it's the same with me. I get that midnight call. I might have a client somewhere in the world who's got a you know, and it means the world to them. They are freaking out, and again, I am not going to rescue them. I will basically challenge them to go, well, what do you think you should be doing and thinking? You know, again, part of my job, a little bit different from yours, mate, but part of my job is to free people from seeing me. If they have to see me for a long period of time, I would say I haven't done my job. You know, I want you in. I want you to build an emotional toolbox and move on.
Give you the tools so you can carry them forever.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like a proud parent, eh?
Yeah. I mean, and then they might touch base every so often, but it's
absolutely.
more
I
of a
still keep in touch.
Top up and refresh of the tools.
It's a real cool feeling. You know, I have occasional emails or messages from people from 10, 15 years ago. I mean, you know, saying that I just thought of you. Something came in my head. It's like a NIETHEism, a little saying or something, you know, and I thought, fuck, that guy's in my head, man.
He's
but
still here.
The other thing, well, yeah, it is. It's really wonderful, mate. But it's also, what's also just as wonderful is here I am now coaching the children of my clients. Now that's pretty special too. You know what I mean?
Make you feel
the
old.
The children of my clients. I'm getting fucking old, Geordie. That's it.
I don't know. It's cool, but it's also like it's
when I get grandchildren, I'm out. I'm out of here, man. But it is. I mean, here's the thing. The only true way to wealth is to help others get what they want. There's a real sense of satisfaction. I'm sure you must feel a real sense of satisfaction when you know that you take someone who had a certain physiology to then present a physiology on stage and to have them overcome, whether they, sometimes it not necessarily about winning the competition. It's about the transformation they undertook.
Oh, it's
In
awesome.
of itself is just as powerful, eh?
Hearing someone be like they'll send you a photo and they'll be like, I can't believe this is me. Like, that's so
Yeah.
cool. And
Yeah.
like, you know, when they're doing it for the first time and they've seen all this stuff, they've seen their body go, you know, through all these changes, and then you hear them and they're like, oh, you know, I've been struggling, but now I've seen this and it's so amazing. I mean, I had 2 clients compete yesterday and they look the best they ever have by miles, and they're so happy, and it's like, it was cool to see how, you know, to see how good they look compared to where they started, but just when they're that like content and happy with the outcome, it's cool. It's cool. And about what we do,
I think that's where we get our sense of satisfaction from, you know. My job, I'm sort of the guy you don't really know much about, but you certainly know about my clients, and that's really my job. You know, you're out there creating champions on the stage. You know, you're just doing your job, mate.
Just the job. Just doing the job.
But well, it's not so much that it's a job as it is it's a passion. You know, we can both agree that we fucking love what we do. I
think there's too much emotional, like, involvement and effort that goes into it for it to be a job. If I wasn't passionate about this, there's no way I could do it. Yeah, I just couldn't. There's not, not in the way that I do it anyway. I would.
Yeah, and I know you, Geordie, and I think, you know, for any of the guys out there listening, seriously, I think that pretty much really is kind of an important factor about you, because I know we've had these conversations when we've caught up at the gym, and I can see how passionate you are in working with these clients, the satisfaction that you have, but also the frustrations that you have. And that, mate, that's a sign of someone who really cares. And that's combined with your experience, your knowledge, and your passion, you know, that's why you've done so well.
Still got a long way to go, but it's part of the plan. It's a life,
mate. It's a lifelong journey, mate. You'll never know enough. I mean, Socrates confirmed that when he said, "The reason why I know I'm a wise person is because I don't know anything." You know, we're on a journey, mate, and it's constantly learning. But I think that way, one of the most important things for anyone in life is to really ignite their sense of curiosity. Get curious about life. Get curious about yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, the body and the mind of the individual, I think, is absolutely the most important project you will ever work on. And that is a lifelong pursuit.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's always changing, always,
and it's exciting. Like I said, you stay curious. You'll find that you can navigate through all the bullshit. You know, that it allows you to become more focused. And in doing so, you know, you get to a point where you start to understand there's 2 types of people in this world. They either contribute or contaminate. So if people are contaminating the world, get rid of them. You know, that's not to say that you become deluded and surround yourself with yes people. But people that truly believe and hold you to account, that's the sort of network of people you want around you.
Yeah, I've talked about that before. That's the most valuable thing. The worst thing you can
do is
people who just tell you what you want to hear. And the sad thing is people actually look for that, and they want to be around that because it makes things easy, but it doesn't make things easy. It makes things easy in the moment, but not in the long run. So anyway, Dave, thank you for coming on, man.
It's a real pleasure, bro.
I'm going to put, for anyone watching, I'll put his details in the description. So if you want to get in touch with him, if you think you could benefit from talking to him, you know, give it a try. I definitely recommend it. So yeah, I'll leave that to you guys to sort out. But anyway, it's in the description. Other than that, I'll see you at the gym.
Yeah, mate.
And I appreciate your time, man.
You're anytime, champ. See you, bud.
See you, Dave.
Real life, real talk, never fall, we ain't doing that. Want me fall off, but I can't, I'm just too attached. I was so lost.